Same one we had before. This is just another section to it. Like I said, your book does deal with this, but not in a great amount of detail. So I want to walk through it so that we can get a visual look on how the circular flow works. Yeah, let's close those blinds a little bit, make it easier to see. There we go, much better. So up in the top right corner, you can see a little bit of this flow model. I'm going to start explaining what each of those aspects are and how they fit into all this. So we begin here just with some of the basics of the circular flow model as we begin to define some terms and understand what economists mean when they say households, or what do they mean when they say business firms. We think we could pretty easily define a household, but when we're looking at economics, we need to understand that households are consumers, people that are buying the product. So when we talk about households, we're talking about people that are consumers, people that are purchasers of goods and services in the marketplace. So by the time we're all said and done here, we should see a big picture view of the overall economy and how it flows back and forth. So we've got households up here, and if you are the artistic type, here's your opportunity to fill this in on your notes and to draw some pictures and come up with something even better than what I've got. Households are over here, business firms on the left. And we see that there is a complete circle between the two, and we'll fill those in here momentarily, where households are providing something to business firms, and business firms in turn are providing something back to them. For purposes right now, we're not going to talk about what's in there yet. When we talk about business firms, now business firms, economists then are going to talk about those who are producing goods and services. So we have the production of your donuts in the factory. They are producing them. Who is buying them? The households, okay? We have a exchange of goods right there. So when we look at that model, the business firms are producing a product over to the households, and economists often look at that as GDP, or gross domestic product. So if you are copying this into your notes or you are drawing this, that top arrow that goes from business firms over to households is your gross domestic product. Items that have been produced by the business firms and they are being sold to the consumers in the households. So if they are producing a donut, they are sending it across the rainbow over here to the households. What are they expecting in return from the households? Money, yeah. Compensation, good. So we call that in the economic flow consumption expenditures. Oh man, why can't you just say money? That would make economics so much easier. I don't make the rules, I just follow them and I tell you what economists use there. So consumption means that we are consuming something. Consumption expenditures are what we give the business firms in exchange for those products. Donuts in particular. So that completes the circular flow between the two. Okay, questions there? Pretty simple, right? So we move ahead and we start adding in a few other things along with this. We begin here with the factors of production. So if I have a donut shop, and that's my business, there are a lot of factors that go into me being able to start up that business, operate the business, produce my donuts. And there are 4 factors of production that most businesses are required to have. And those of you that are in Mr. Grass's business class or have taken it in the past, he may have talked about some of these. So first one is land. These are all the natural resources that go into the production of those goods. Land does not necessarily mean that you own that land. It does not necessarily mean that you have direct access to it, but somehow you are going to need to either rent land or land is going to be used to help make product for you to be able to then use in your factory. So you've got to have natural resources that go into the production of those goods. It could be that you buy a piece of property, you build a building on it, build a factory, and that could be part of your factory's production. It could be that you are renting land or renting a factory to be able to produce your donuts. That could be involved in all of that. You need people to make your donuts. We call that labor. And labor is defined economically as all human effort that goes into the creation of those goods or services. We're talking about donuts here. We're talking about goods that are being made. I guess there's a service involved in that too. So this is your labor aspect. And by the way, if you are drawing this yourself, all of this here is in this bottom half of the circle. This is your factors of production right here. So if you just want to abbreviate this FOP and then understand that that's factors of production, if you're drawing it yourself, feel free to do that. These are things that are typically coming from the households and going to the business firms. And it'll make sense once we complete that circle again. The third thing that you need is financial capital. You open up a donut shop and you find out that it's going to cost you at least $50,000 to get this donut shop doors open for day one. Well, you don't have $50,000 sitting in your bank account, and you need those funds from somewhere. And so you go around and you find an investor, you find an individual that does have $50,000 who is willing to invest in your company and knows that you have a passion for donuts, knows that you can make quality goods. And so you ask him and you say, hey, can I borrow $50,000 to start up my business? And he says, yes, I'd love to see a new donut shop. He gives you the $50,000. There's usually going to be a catch there. We'll talk about that catch. But he gives you that financial capital to get you your necessary items to be able to start up your business. You use that financial capital for all kinds of different things, which we're not going to go into right now. But that is loaned to you. It's not free and clear. Then finally, we have entrepreneurship. This is the act of combining all of the other factors of production together in order to create a new or useful product in the market. You got to put them all together in a way that is going to make a profit, hopefully. There are all kinds of entrepreneurs out there that have great ideas. Not all of them can execute them successfully. You've all seen items that are on the infomercials. Maybe a great concept, not executed well. Or sometimes you have a great product and the individual cannot run the business well. You ever watch Shark Tank? Okay, you watch Shark Tank, you get all kinds of people in there that think that they are the next great entrepreneur. Some of them are. Some of them great products. Others of them have this idea, and you kind of watch the guys there looking to invest, and they're like, I don't get it. This does not make sense. You have a crazy idea out there. So entrepreneurship, this is perhaps the most critical to a successful business. If you do not have entrepreneurial skills to be able to combine all of these things creatively, manage your staff, be able to have access to all these other things, and to do it well, your business is not going to be successful. Now, we don't have time today, so this is a to be continued, because right now we've only completed half of the circle up here with the factors of production that have come from the households to the business firms. We need to complete that circle when we come back next time. But I want you to be thinking about, well, what if the household is providing land, what are they getting in exchange for that land? If they're providing labor, what are they getting in exchange for that labor? If they're providing financial capital, what comes back to them in exchange for it? If they're providing entrepreneurship, what comes back in exchange for that? So be thinking about that a little bit before we come back. Next time we'll complete that, leaving a little bit of suspense so that you're wondering, what's the end of the story?